To self-publish or to traditionally publish? That is the question. Hey guys, I'm Marilyn and welcome back to my channel. So today we're talking about a very hot topic, self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Now, a lot of the videos that go around talking about these two topics give you the pros and cons of both sides of the publishing industry. Today I thought I'd do something a little different, and that is go through the considerations to take when choosing whether to go for self-publishing or traditional publishing. So here are a few things that you should think of when you are making that decision. First up, let's deal with the concepts. What is self-publishing and what is traditional publishing? Now, self-publishing means that you as the author are in charge of getting the book out there into the hands of your readers. You will be responsible for the entire process, the writing, the editing, the proofreading, the cover, the marketing, the distribution, everything, getting the ISBN numbers, all of that. Traditional publishing means that a publishing house has purchased the rights to your novel and they are responsible for getting it out into the world. This will also usually entail having a literary agent, since very few traditional publishing houses accept unsolicited manuscripts from writers themselves. Now, when I talk about traditional publishing, know that it includes indie publishing, which is publishing through an independent publisher, and also vintage press publishing, which I would not recommend to anyone since they want the rights to your book, but they also ask you to pay for publication. So I'll mostly be focusing on traditional publishing through one of the big publishing houses. So the first thing to consider is your knowledge base. Few writers are only writers, which means that you have skills and knowledge that you can use when you are going into either of these publishing avenues. For example, for self-publishing, it's good to have some business knowledge, since you will essentially be running a publishing business. It's also good to know all the steps that go into getting a book ready for publication, how to get it out there, and how to let readers know about it. So if you worked for a publishing company for a bunch of years, or you have a business degree, or you used to work in business, then you might have a skill set that will be well suited for self-publishing. On the other hand, if you're like me and you have been researching the traditional publishing industry since you were a prepubescent and you are a law student, so you have a knowledge of contracts, then you might be better suited for traditional publishing. I know exactly the steps that go into traditional publishing from the author's side. I know what to look out for in literary agent contracts and publishing contracts. Keep in mind that this knowledge doesn't have to be inherent. You don't have to be born with the knowledge of the publishing process in order to self-publish. It can be acquired. Just if you maybe have a skill set, a talent, some knowledge that will help you in one direction or the other, that could be a good consideration to take into account when deciding which route to follow. Next factor to consider is money, or your budget. So when it comes to self-publishing, because you are in charge of every step of getting your book to publication, you are also responsible for the money it takes to get that book out there. You will have to carry all the costs yourself. With traditional publishing, you might have a few costs if you're going to get a professional critique or get an edit before you query. But as soon as that book is in the hands of a publisher, they bear the costs because they get the profits. So you won't have to pay for things like the printing of the book, the cover design, the proofreading, the distribution, anything like that. All the costs will be covered by your publishing house. And side tip, if a literary agent asks you for money, then they are not legit literary agent. Do not send them anything and do not sign with them. If a publishing house asks you for money to publish your book, don't. That's a vintage press and it really isn't a good way to go. You shouldn't be paying money for someone else to publish your book. You only have to pay money if you are self-publishing. So with self-publishing, if you use platforms like IngramSpark or CreateSpace, you won't have to pay for the printing itself because it's print on demand, and then they will just get a percentage of the proceeds. But remember, and this is very, very important to remember, that you will have to do the marketing for your book, regardless of whether you self-publish or traditionally publish. Yes, it may be that if you are signed with a traditional publishing house, they will assist you with the marketing. They might assist you in the monetary aspects of marketing, but they will not do all the marketing for you. You will have to do marketing, so that may be something that you have to put into your budget as well. Now, this doesn't mean that in order to self-publish, you need to have bags of money just lying around. It's about your ability to budget and about your specific lifestyle. I'm a student, I have loans, and I'm on a very tight budget. So for me to be able to save the money I need to self-publish my book is going to be very difficult. Whereas if you're in a position where you can save a little bit every month toward publishing your book, then self-publishing might be a good way to go. So that's just one of the considerations. Also keep in mind that the money is relevant for what you're going to get out as well. With traditional publishing, you get a small percentage of the proceeds of your book once you have sold past your advance. So when you sign with a publishing house, they will usually pay you an amount as an advance, and that's what they predict that book will sell. It's often not a lot, 5 figures are a good deal when you're looking at it in advance, and only once you've started earning past that advance, you will receive royalties on every book. Now, where I'm from, I don't know about the United States or the UK or anything, but in South Africa, getting a 12% royalty rate on your book is considered generous. So keep in mind that you're not going to get that much money from the books that are sold. With self-publishing, the royalty rates are amazing because there aren't a lot of other people with their fingers in the pie. You don't have a literary agent that gets a commission or the publishing house that gets most of the money. You will get about 70%, 80% of the royalty rates. Like I said, it's just that little bit that IngramSpark or CreateSpace, or I think it's CreateSpace now, not KDP anymore, will take. So you can also keep that in mind. Like, if you are investing a lot of money with self-publishing, you might get a lot of those investments back if a lot of readers are picking up your book. The next factor to consider is your personality or preferences. What is it that you want to be doing for most of your life? Are you a very versatile person? Do you want to be involved in different steps of the writing process? Do you want to have a lot of input in the cover of your book? Do you want to be in charge of all the edits? Or do you want to spend most of your time just writing? Self-publishing includes a lot of different steps. So yes, a big part of it is writing because you have to write the book, but a big part of it isn't writing. Versus traditional publishing, most of your time can go into writing. I'm saying this assuming you don't have another job or school or something, which most writers have, but most of your literary time can be spent writing. Also, once again, keep in mind that marketing is something that both types of authors will have to do. Don't think that if you're a traditionally published author, you can just write, and never worry about anything in terms of getting the book out there. You're still going to have to market your book. In terms of your personality, you also have to think about things like control. Are you someone who struggles to give up control of your projects? Because remember, once the publishing house buys your book, it is theirs. They decide the cover, the release dates, what's on the back of the book, which edits are being made. Great publishing houses will ask for your input and take your statements or comments into account, but not all of them do, and that is their prerogative because you signed over the rights. Versus with self-publishing, you are in complete control. You decide which edits make it into the book, what's on the back of the book, what is the cover, when is the release date, how am I going to plan everything out, who's going to be my editor. All of that is just you, which means you have complete control over your book, baby. But you also have to keep in mind that if you are a person who has a lot on their plate and who is prone to anxiety, like I am, it is going to be really nice to have an agent or a publisher to take care of a lot of those steps. So once again, it's just what works for your personality and your preferences. Also consider how you feel about stigmas. It's diminishing at the moment, but there is still a stigma around self-publishing because essentially anyone can put a book out there. So it's not just the authors that really take it seriously and want to produce quality work that can self-publish. So there's a stigma around that. People might not take you as seriously as they would a traditionally published author. There's a lot of acclaim associated with being a traditionally published author. So if that is something that is very important to you, then you might want to go the traditional route. Also consider how you are at managing a project, because if you self-publish, you are essentially managing the entire publication process. So that last one was a bit of a wide consideration because it encapsulates a lot of things, but you know what your preferences and your personality is. So you'll know what to think about and what to take into account. I want to tell you that a decision doesn't bind you for life. If you decide to self-publish, you don't have to be a self-published author for the rest of your career. If you're traditionally published, that doesn't mean that you can't self-publish in the future. So, say you self-publish your debut novel, you can always still query that book to a literary agent and submit it to a publishing house. Some publishing houses don't like taking on books that have already been self-published, but maybe you write a second book and you query that. Then having been self-published for your first book might actually count in your favor. So keep in mind that if you self-publish, you can still go the traditional route with your following books. Same goes for traditional publishing. If you sell your first series to a publishing house, but you decide that for your next series you want to write a completely different genre and you would like to self-publish that, you want to be in control this time, then you can still do that. Keep in mind that most publishing contracts will have an option clause, which means that the publisher will have a first right of offer on your future projects. Just be sure to check out that option to ensure that they don't have the first exclusive right to purchase, but that they just have the first right to offer, because then you can still decide. Ultimately, you just have to reasonably consider their offer for your next book. I know that a lot of the times this isn't actually a decision. A lot of the times you query an agent or you even go on submission to a publishing house and it doesn't get accepted. And that doesn't always mean that your book is bad, or that you're not a good writer, or you haven't put in enough work. Sometimes it really is just the market. Traditional publishers are very conscious of what is selling at the moment and what can they put into a nice little category so it can sell. So another thing you might want to take into account is that if your book is something that breaks boundaries completely, if it is something that has never been seen before, or that is in a very, very new genre, then self-publishing might be the route you have to take eventually, because publishers are a little more cautious. Obviously, if you self-publish, there aren't any rules or guidelines. You can publish whatever you want. So that is also something to take into account, is the type of book you're writing. For example, I'm currently writing a dystopian, and that is kind of on a downhill path at the moment in traditional publishing, because it was kind of saturated with books like Hunger Games and Divergent and things like that. So now it's on a downhill, whereas fantasy is very much the golden boy at the moment. So I might have to, I maybe will query or submit, but they might tell me, you know, we're not looking for dystopians at the moment, and then I can still self-publish it. I also write new adult, and new adult is a genre that not a lot of literary agents accept. So keep in mind that if you get that rejection, you can always still self-publish it. Just make sure that you put all the work into it and get it at the top of the quality that you can. So those are the tips that I have for you guys for today. I hope that this helped you in thinking about which route of publishing you want to follow. Remember that you don't have to think about it right now if you're still just in the first draft stage of your book. If you have any requests for future writing advice videos, leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, if it helped you think about what decision to make, please give it a thumbs up and a share. It would mean a lot to me. It lets me know that you like this type of content. It lets YouTube know the same, which just brightens up my day. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want writing advice videos every single Friday and tons of bonus content. You can also ring that little bell down there if you want an email notification to your inbox as soon as I upload, so you don't miss anything. As always, you can find me on my website, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. All the links are listed below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!